A massive thanks to Konami with Super Bomberman R2 for sponsoring this episode. Amazing. Can't believe I'm actually saying that. Hi everyone and welcome back to SwitchUp, and firstly congratulations to the winner of the free game from last week's episode. Ping us an email and we'll get you a code. Nice one. Now I just went for a power nap and it's lasted about 3 hours. And you know when you wake up and you feel kind of sick? Yeah, I'm not going to complain though. Power nap when you got 3 kids is a absolute win. Okay, make sure you save yourself 10% on these games if you're going to buy any. Use code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg. You get 5% off instantly and 5% back in coins. What are the best games on sale this week? Oh man, let's find out. This episode was sponsored by Super Bomberman R2, which is the latest title in the Party Battle Games series, which has previously been on the Nintendo Switch. This one's coming out on the 13th of the month and has quite a few changes. The game features not only offline battles that can be played with family and friends, but also online ones that can connect players from all around the world, as well as a single player game mode. There are 4 battle modes, including the new Castle mode. In this, players are divided into Attack Inside and Castle Side to battle for the treasure chest. The Castle Side essentially has to protect the treasure chest by building defences around it, while the attackers, well, they gotta break in and steal the treasure. The other 3 modes include Standard, Grand Prix and Battle 64. Standard is obviously the classic mode you all know and love. Grand Prix is a team battle mode, and Battle 64 is a survival mode where up to 64 players compete to be the last one standing. There's a stage editor included, a great feature allowing you to create your own stages for Castle mode and then share them online with players from around the world. There's an enhanced story mode here where you can essentially visit new planets with Bomberman's new friends, Elons or Ellens, and face the threat of the universe. There are new characters, bosses, items, and it retails at $39.99 and has a download size of 4.8 gigs. All the links will be in the description and the top pinned comment. Let's start with the thumbnail, or most likely the thumbnail game, and that is Mortal Shell. Now loads of you have mentioned it throughout the week. It's on a 90% discount, taking it down to £2.49. I mean, this could have been in the Savaloy selection. That sale goes on until September the 15th, and it's a 3D Souls-like game that has heavy, brutal combat. The shells are different archetypes that you can choose to play as, and if you get knocked out of your shell, so whereas you would normally die in another game, here you get ripped out of that mortal shell, and you've got a second chance to try and get back to it and carry on the fight. Now on Switch, it is not the prettiest game ever. I did actually message the developer the other day and say, you know, the sale's amazing, are we likely to see another patch? And it's all quiet on the Western Front, so we will see about that one. Regardless though, if you can take the classic Switch blurry look, the actual gameplay is really good, especially at that price. I mean, it's, yeah, very, very well worth picking up. Aside from the main story mode, there is a roguelite mode in there as well, which is really addictive, and it mixes up the world and the enemies, and I think I played that for as long as I did the main game. So yeah, if you're a Souls fan and you haven't picked this one up, it's never going to get cheaper than that, I don't think. Ghost of a Tale is a lovely little action adventure where you take on the role of Tilo, who is a mouse and minstrel, and this adventure involves lots of stealth. It's currently on its cheapest ever price, taking it down 60% until September the 19th, and the rulers of this world are the rats. This one was developed by Seath CG and published by Plug-in Digital, and I think it featured as a hidden gem maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. I do love this one. It's got a real Grimm's fairy tale feel to it. It's also quite lengthy. You're looking at around 10 to 15 hours for your first run through, but there are secrets and bits and bobs that could extend that by at least 25%. That sale goes on until September the 19th. Ageless is currently 75% off in the EU and Australian regions, and you guide Kiara through the world, which is a puzzle platformer with myths and legends thrown in. Now I'm sure that Glenn reviewed this for us on the channel, and if I'm not mistaken, he enjoyed it, but it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't an incredible game, it was just very good. I think the biggest problem for a game like this now on Switch is the amount of competition and the quality of the competition as well. But if you're a fan of this genre, then I'd say it's a worthy pickup. For what, under £3? It's an absolute bargain. Now, because we like to be fair, and we just had one that was only in the EU, here's one that's only in the US, and it's Eldest Souls. That's 70% off, and it specialises in brutal and infuriating boss fights in a Souls-like fashion. The world itself doesn't have any other enemies, so between bosses you're just doing little puzzles and using a few skills to traverse, but it's pretty simple, and then you're going to fight the boss. If you don't like boss rush and Souls-like, this won't be for you, but I loved how chunky the combat was, even with this pixel style. If you're good, you could finish this this in 1 or 2 sittings, it's around 5 or 6 hours. But that is a very big if, because it is challenging. I think there's a limited run of this as well. I might be mistaken. But the sale for that goes on until September the 18th, down to just $5.99. We did a sponsored video for Everdream Valley a while back, and you probably can tell just by the visuals on the screen. It's like a mixture of a 3D Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing. The problem was when it launched, it did have quite a few bugs. Like performance wasn't terrible, but it just wasn't great. There's been, I think, around 4 or 5 patches since that time, so it's significantly better than it was. This is currently its cheapest ever, 30% off, and there's tons of content. You've got the usual farming. There are a lot of different animals. Pigs, cows, chickens, ducks, goats. I don't know if you've seen the video, but I walked into the room and there's this mini game where you've got to milk a cow and it just looks so wrong.
Oh, it's horrible. What are you doing, fella?
But yeah, if you enjoy those styles of games, then I think you'll really enjoy this one, especially now that it's had a fair old few patches. 'Tis the season of sim life games, isn't it, at the moment? Our review of Fae Farm should be out tomorrow. That sale of Everdream Valley is 30% off until September the 30th. You sound like you're from London, Walker. Then in number 6 this week, and it was recommended to me again the other week. Someone was like, hey, you haven't mentioned that in ages. It's stupidly cheap. So here we are. It's Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, not to be called Dark Horizon, which I did, I believe, in an early video years and years ago, and I got absolutely and understandably torn to shreds. Dragon's Dogma, though, is a semi-open world action RPG. It's currently a measly £4.24. That's just for the amount of game that you're getting, £4.24. You can completely create your own character. You can create your own sidekick characters as well and then send those online to play. Because it's always on sale, there's usually quite a decent online what would you say, activity in terms of getting people's, they're called pawns, P-A-W-N-S, getting those and having those, you know, downloading and using other people's ones. Those partners kind of fight independently of you. And here's my prediction. Now, do you remember that Capcom informed Nintendo with basically the Switch hardware? Capcom were like, look, we need 4 gigs. And Nintendo, in a very unusual move for Nintendo, actually put 4 gigs in the Switch, which meant that we could see things like the RE engine come across. And in fairness, they probably really helped them out with that little tip. But I wouldn't be surprised if they've had an input potentially into this new Switch. And I don't know if you heard, apparently at one of the last expos, some of the press were shown some tech demos of what the next Switch could do. But I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if they've had some say and we get to see Dragon's Dogma 2 on the next Switch, which would be, it would be so good. I'm actually a lot more optimistic now because I don't think, like, there was this period where tech jumps were so big that console generations were, you know, they were like insurmountably big between each one. And that's just got progressively more small as the chip architectures got smaller physically, you know, like the 4 nanometer processors and all of that. So it's almost giving the Switch, or at least Nintendo, a chance to put something out there that will be able to run modern games at a reasonable frame rate, especially when you look at things like the new AMD, is it FSR3? I can't remember what it's called. There's basically a piece of tech that's going to put frames in, like just make these AI frames, but we would never notice. Anyway, I've gone completely off tangent there. I should create a new channel called, I don't know what it would be called, but it would be nerdy. Dragon's Dogma is a great game from Capcom, and you should definitely add it to your list. Gamedec, now the definitive edition, is another that I love. It really does remind me of some of the games I used to play back on PC. The game detective goes into these virtual worlds and solves crimes. That is you, by the way. And there are several different cases in Gamedec, which is very cool as a gamer because you're going into these worlds that you would otherwise be playing, you know, in a separate game. There's one that's like a Wild West. There's one that's a lot like Blade Runner. But then it's kind of fourth wall breaking because the people you meet are like you would meet if you were playing a game. There's like this woman who's pretending to be a unicorn, and I mean, I might sound a bit weird, and I guess it is, but the different dialogue choices and the style as well, it looks good. I like this one. For what? £2.69. That's 90% off. You could do a lot worse than picking this one up from Untold Tales. There are 30 side quests in there as well, but there is no combat, so it describes itself as a non-combat RPG. But Cyberpunk always adds to games in my, well, Cyberpunk should always add to games in my opinion. Number 8 then, we've got Borderlands The Legendary Collection, which is 80% off, down to £7.99. Now, Glenn and I, on a Friday, we get together and play games, you know, like when you were a kid. We've just finished all of the levels, well, 99% of the levels from the Zombie Army 4 game. Or was it the Zombie Army trilogy? I can't remember. Either way, we've just finished that, so we need a new game. And Glenn's never played Borderlands before, so I'm going to try and convince him to pick this one up, because I mean, yeah, with the third game about to come out, this would be great if we could bust out 1 and 2. Yeah, I think he'd be surprised how enjoyable these are. He's not really much of a first-person fan, but the Borderlands games, oh, so good in co-op with a group of friends. And for the person who's typing already, no, you don't need co-op, but I would say it adds quite a bit to these. This pack includes the first game, the Game of the Year edition, Borderlands 2. It includes the pre-sequel, essentially probably 100 to 200 hours of gameplay easily, and they feature gyro controls, which is nice, but it was weird because it came out at the same time as they released the BioShock series, and none of those had gyro. It was a bit odd. The only thing here are the download sizes. You're looking at 21 gigs, so you'd have to make sure you've got room on that extra SD card. That sale goes on until September the 17th. The often overlooked and very good Neon Abyss is still on sale at £4.79, 70% off until September the 22nd, and it's only once before being this cheap. This is one of the best or better roguelikes that we've got on Switch. The action takes place from a side perspective, and you work your way through different dungeons. You'll find new rooms, items, bosses, special rules, and of course different endings if you can get that far. There are synergies that you can do between your items as well, which always mixes things up a little bit, and there are some mini games in there. If you're after another roguelike fix and maybe you've not heard of this one, then yeah, strongly recommend it. If you enjoy it, you'll find a good amount of DLC as well, so there's a lot to get your teeth stuck into. There is the Neon Abyss Deluxe Edition, which includes all of that DLC as well, which I think is £6.59, so I guess that's probably the best way to go. Alright, before we get onto our Savaloys then, the final one, I wouldn't say it's a hidden gem, I'd say it's just a gem, it's like an indie gem, and it's Pumpkin Jack. Now this came from one single developer, I believe, who took clear inspiration from some classics like Medieval, which was back on, was it PlayStation 2? Great game. Oh no, you know when you like go down nostalgia lane in your brain, and your brain suddenly flashes a game that you want to play? Did anyone play Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver? Or just the base Legacy of Kain games from back on PlayStation? Man, yeah, they'd be amazing. But this one does take heavy inspiration from Medieval. It has that colourful world but offset against dark, kind of almost Halloween scenery. There are puzzles in there, physics-based ones, a good amount of skill-based platforming, and it's just a really solid, if not very long game. About 4 or 5 hours. Super small indie dev, made a really good game. Deserves to get the sales. So yeah, consider that one. It's just £7.49 at 70% off. The cheapest it's ever been, until September the 24th. Okay, so that takes us on to our Savaloy selection, a series of games that are ludicrously cheap as a UK Savaloy, or a South African Vetkoek, or a Costco hot dog deal, or the many, many other things that you keep putting into the comments that I can't possibly read or understand, but I do like to hear about them. First up, we've got The Room, which is like a 3D puzzle game where you're unlocking a box. It's been on every single platform. It's currently 85% off of its usual price, which takes it down to £1.04. That's ridiculous. And you can actually pick up The Room 2 as well on Switch for exactly the same price. So that is a double pack of Savaloys. Happy days. Flashback is 90% off. I know Flashback 2 is almost finished, so that should be out soon. But if you're after an old school retro platformer, then Flashback 2 might be a good one for you to consider. I think it would probably appeal more to people that played it back in the day though. It feels a little clunky nowadays. That's £1.34. It's 90% off until September the 20th. And then finally, last but not least, we have When Ski Lifts Go Wrong. I remember back in 2019 playing this and being like, I was going to review it, and then something else popped up and I didn't get a chance to. But it's really good. It's quite simple. Well, it's not simple actually, it's quite difficult, but it's a simple premise. It's a physics-based puzzle game, and then to test them you send the skier down, and yeah, you get the point. It's just 710 megs. It's 85% off, down to £2.24. A very nice little loading game if you're looking for something to just kind of chill to without having to think too much. When Ski Lifts Go Wrong might be a good choice. So that is it for this week. I don't have an avoid game because, well, I don't want to just pick a random game. That would be harsh. I can't see anything here that I particularly want you to avoid, so maybe let me know in the comments what games should people avoid that you've seen on sale and are a little bit whiffy. Thanks to all of you that enjoy the content. As I said at the start, you can save some money. All the information is at the bottom of the screen right now. Once again, just a thanks to Konami for sponsoring this episode. Do click the link in the description if you want to support the channel. If you enjoy this series, do tickle all the buttons. Make sure notifications are on if you'd like to, and we will see you hopefully tomorrow with the Faith Farm review. Thanks to all of you and to our Patreons and members for all things Switch all the time. Keep it Switch up. Cheers guys. See ya.